Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Cocteau Twins' 1990 album called Heaven or Las Vegas. This was the band's sixth album in total, last for 4AD Records, who they originally signed with back in 1982. This is their second appearance on the channel. I did review Bluebell Knoll a few months ago, and I gave it a 74 out of 100, right in the middle of a very good and in between very good and classic, right almost on the way to classic, probably a track or two short of being a classic. Um, I knew going into reviewing their other albums, and again, this is the second time I'm reviewing their album, to see really which might be considered a classic, if any. And as far as the overall band, I think Cocteau Twins is an amazing band. I absolutely love them. But sometimes when I critique their albums, I've only done one so far, but I was expecting it to be closer into a classic than a 74. And I love their sound. I love their production. I love her voice. I love the guitars. I love the ethereal sound. It's just sometimes there's a couple songs on each album that are just kind of like okay and prevent the album from being considered a classic in my opinion. Like I'm such a huge fan of their singles. I don't know if you can see it up there, but that's the Cocteau Twins box set of CDs, which one of them was Ice Blink Luck, which was a single on here. That's one of the CDs, and there are so many fantastic songs on those EPs. Some of those are probably rivaling even the better songs on most of the albums. Like there are so many fantastic songs. If those songs would have been on the albums, a lot of their albums would have been classics in my opinion. But there's some I wouldn't say I mean going into Cocteau Twins, I don't think there's any song that I dislike. I don't think there's any song that I think is below pretty good. I mean there might be a couple okay songs for what they do if you took off if you I mean I don't know how many songs they've done in total. Maybe let's say they did 120 songs. If 120 songs they did, then probably 120 of them are good and better. If I was to say maybe okay, there might be a couple that are okay, but for the most part their songs are pretty good to good, very good, and even above an 8 score for me in classic and above. I rated two of their songs classic on Bluebell Knoll. But there's a couple songs in there that I sort of gave like a pretty good score on, and so it took the album down to very good. So I'm curious going into this album if I can critique it and see if it gets over 80 or see if any of their albums get over 80. It almost makes me want to rank their EPs from best to least liked and just kind of just for curious and maybe also even rate their songs individually and rate those songs in all of them and maybe do like a top 40 Cocteau Twins songs or something like that just to really honor them properly the way I would like to. Reviewing their albums, there'll be some songs that it's pretty good, but I love their sound overall and they have such a great discography and great catalog that I feel like they're excellent, and it's everything about their sound, their voice, and Elizabeth Fraser's voice, and their aesthetic, and their production, and just their career trajectory of their sound, and going from a colder post punk sound to a more ethereal, and then to a warmer sound, and then even it feeling like there's a little bit of like I don't know. Sometimes listening for Calendar Cafe gives me like a 50s vibe because it's very dreamy like like Earth Angel, like it kind of has that like ring, ring, like it almost has that kind of dreamy 50s sound like just a it's something they do in the production that just give it like this vintage sound where it sounds like it's from this time of sound of just guitar strumming or strings. Just it's almost hard to explain, but if you're a Cocteau Twins fans, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's 10 tracks on this album. We're going to start with reviewing each of them individually. Hopefully I can play a little bit of the track and not get copyright striked in your country, and hopefully you can hear it as well. Let's go on to the first track on Cherry, which is called Cherry Colored Funk. And this is an album review on Heaven or Las Vegas by Cocteau Twins.
sunset, you done no panicky, I know the rainy day. Racing around on the turf. You could be racing Monday with your mama, you might be showing your round the dressed up with cake. Take a toast to that and bye. The lost can I lose me fine? It's so useful. It's so useful. Perfection is mine. Loses me fine. Perfection is down between the sunrise and sunset. Yet I'm not panicky. I know the rainy day. Racing around all the turf. You could be racing Monday with your mother. You might be showing your round the dressed up with cake. Take a toast to that and bye. The rose can loses me fine. It's so useful. It's so useful. Perfection is mine. Loses me fine. Perfection is but others just rude. Like the scary hairs on our singing hoof. Like the scary hairs on our singing hooves. Big hooves of everything good as you are. Spoon inside me that won't set my face. A clean stone, every stone that wouldn't bound your little ground. When I'm empty-headed, seeing storms me back to you, will you? Seeing storms me back to you, will you? Or will you? My dreams are wild, sick and must be dressed. They're young girls' dreams. Seeing storms me back to you, will you? Have to whistling the tune every time he chimes later on. If my body puzzles to trick me, I'll end it all in tomorrow and pacify. My baby's cry.
think of Cocteau Twins like they're very consistent, and I think it becomes kind of obvious if I say, "Oh, it's very ethereal sounding," or very, I like they do. This one's a little bit more moody, or this one's a little bit more upbeat. Like if you know Cocteau Twins and you're listening to this review, you pretty much get it. So I don't feel like I need to review every song on here, but I do want to give a score on every song, and then basically just talk about the overall of the album. Obviously, it's a really good album, and just based on my scoring system, it rates higher than Bluebell Knoll. I add up the stars, and it's a 76 and a quarter divided by 10 songs, which is 76. 76, the score is 76. Yeah, Bluebell Knoll got a 74. So obviously, it's a to me it's a better, more consistent album. I was a little leery of the second half of it, kind of bringing down the score a little bit. I know a lot of times when I listen to this album, I play on the first like 5 or 6 songs, and I play them so much that I end up not playing the rest of the album, and I sort of forget about the last few songs. It's so hard to play a song like Heaven or Las Vegas and only play it once. Like if I have a half an hour trip to the grocery store and back, 15 minutes each way, and I play Heaven or Las Vegas 3 or 4 times, I only have really enough time for 1 or 2 more songs. So I mean that kind of seems what happens a lot when I play Cocteau Twins. I get stuck on the same song for multiple times. And in here, when I look at the rankings, um, I have the song rankings. I have 6 of the 10 songs are rated a 7. So 6 of the 7 are very good. There's 3 above very good, classic and legendary. 2 classics that are in the 8, and then 1 song that's in the 9s, Heaven or Las Vegas, 9.5. And then I have just 1 song that's below very good. So roughly most of it's in very good, which ties to the album score for me is 76. Right in there is feels about where it needs to be as well. But I'd like to give this album extra a couple points for just, I feel like the band is really perfecting the sound. When I got a chance to really zone in and really focus in on the last half of the songs, the last 4 or 5 songs specifically, to see if it held the strong rating of the first half. Because when I got Heaven or Las Vegas a 9.5, Cherry Colored Funk at 8.5, 50-50 Clown at 8 3/4, and then also Ice Blink Luck 7 3/4. I Wear a Ring 7.5, and Pitch the Babies a 7. It's very strong in there, the first 6 songs. The second half, or the last 4 songs, I got a 6, a 7, 7, and a 7.5. So it still maintained it at least of a rough. I mean, those 4 average out to about a 6.7. So it's still almost a very good. So if you sort of take the top 3 songs, balance it with the 3 lowest songs, it ends up being closer to an 80 than it is to a 70. And just for my overall thoughts on the album, my overall feelings on the album, I do feel like giving it an extra 3 to 4 points and pushing it up to an 80 out of 100. So I do think this album is a classic. It's right on the low side of a classic, but classic nonetheless. I don't give 80s out for an album very often, and because it's hard for me to say an album is classic all the way through and great all the way through. And you can see, even though 7 out of 10 songs I didn't feel are great, like I felt like it's holding enough to where the overall sum of the parts is even better than the average amount of songs. And I feel like this album does a good job of that. And I feel like it's worthy of giving it a classic title and giving it 80 out of 100. It's just 50-50 Clown is just a personal favorite. It's one of my favorite lesser known Cocteau Twins. I love the bridge and the verses. It's just magical. And then it's a little bit more electronic, a little bit more moody. I really love especially right when he goes into it, and it's a little bit on the darker side, just a little bit different than the normal songs they do. I just love that song. And then Heaven or Las Vegas, I could have easily gave that song a 10. Um, the choruses and everything are so good. I mean, the verses and everything. I do feel like I don't know. A lot of times I feel like for like some well, a lot of times with songs I feel like Cocteau Twins songs are a little short. Like for example here, like almost half the album, more than half the album are 3 minute songs. And sometimes I want them to go on longer because they're so great. But then sometimes they're like, oh well, it's nice and concise, and that's what makes you want to come back to it because they're like perfect pop vignettes of great sounding, unique sounding, you know, whatever you call their style, dream pop or shoegaze, whatever you call it. So it's just like perfect little pieces of it. The only reason why I don't give Heaven in Las Vegas a 10, I really appreciate and I really like the chorus, but I don't know if it just feels like it's slightly lesser than the choruses and the verse. I mean, the verses and the rest of the song. Like, as soon as you hear those notes, like the first notes, you're like, oh, this is Heaven in Las Vegas. I love this song. And then you go into her singing the verses, and they're great, equally great, right? Because it's still this kind of same tone going. The chorus is a little bit down for me. Like, I appreciate the chorus. I think it's an above average chorus for them. But I don't, I think it's kind of inevitable that that would be the chorus versus, and I don't know how they could make a chorus better than it. It's just maybe it's just like the verses and everything is so perfect that I feel like there's a little bit of a letdown in chorus not to give it a 10. But anyway, a 9.5 is crazy. I can't even believe I'm defending it, not giving it a 10. It's probably because I feel like it should be a 10 in some ways, but 9.5 is such a strong score. So when you look at Heaven or Las Vegas and a 9.5, and then 50-50 Clown, 8 3/4, and then Cherry Colored Funk is such a great way to start the album, and I gave that one an 8.5. That chorus I like even better than Heaven or Las Vegas, but the verses aren't as good. But then the album is just really super consistent. I thought the second half would be a little bit lower than it is, but 3 of the 4 songs are above very good, so it held its own. And so when I think of only one song lower than very good, and it's a 6, of course the album should be closer to an 8 and probably an 8 out of 10 easily. So I feel pretty justified. I feel pretty confident giving it an 80, even if I can be a little bit harder on the scores. I just think that like I put that extra 10% in there, that buffer, that what most people think is probably that I think is a 7, they probably think is an 8. Like very good would be an 8, and then well, very, let's say classic would be a 9 for most people, and very good would be an 8. 10 would be perfect. Like I kind of put my scoring system so it's a little bit more like excellence is in the 9s, a classic is in the 8s, and then very good is in 7s. And the reason why I do that is because I've mentioned this before. Is if you had a friend that was into shoegaze and they never heard this album, you would give it to them as a classic of the genre, right? You'd be like, oh, here's Heaven in Las Vegas. Now, let's say they didn't like shoegaze. You have to give them one uh, Cocteau Twins album because they're a great band, right? But would you give that album to them as a legendary album and they had no idea about any kind of shoegaze and you were like, this is the one shoegaze album you should listen to? Maybe you could with Heaven or Las Vegas because the rest of the genre may not have that. But I don't know if there's any Cocteau Twins that's legendary. Now, if you made your greatest hits compilation, let's say you took your favorite 10 tracks and you're like, here's my favorite 10 Cocteau Twins songs, would 3 of them be from Heaven or Las Vegas? At the most, maybe, but not 4, not 5. So there's really no one album of theirs that is really in the nines, close to a nine for me. But if you took out like 10, 20 songs and singles and sort of put them together, you could easily have a nine, in my opinion, if you took their best 10 tracks. My favorite 10 tracks, I'm sure there's 10 tracks of Cocteau Twins that I would rate around a nine and higher. So if you took those 9 tracks, yeah, that would be a legendary album, wouldn't it? If you took your favorite 10 tracks, it would be a legendary album. But classics gives you the opportunity to be like, these are great songs in their catalog that you feel you're really confident anybody would like. But there may not be your absolute favorite. But there might be 20 or 30 songs in there that are 8 to 10s, right? But very good is going to be, if you really like the band, most of their music is probably going to be very good. So that's why there's a little bit more of a difference in my rating system, because I want to be more exact and really feel confident that an album is really legendary or an album is really classic. Like a legendary is your probably your Disintegration, The Cure, maybe Violator, maybe Black Celebration, maybe Floodland by Sisters of Mercy. I'm not even sure if I would give a Skinny Puppy album a legendary album, but classic I would. Very good. Most of their albums are very good. So you see what I mean as far as like the scoring? Like I wanted to have another level in there to where you feel confident that if I say something is legendary, that it's legendary for me, at least. Like a lot of people exaggerate a lot and just say everything's great. Oh, it's great. That's a classic. You know, how can you go higher than a classic? Well, I'm trying to with legendary. I want to have that difference of legendary, classic, and a very good. If I really like the band, most of their stuff's going to be very good, right? So I feel like this album does warrant a classic. It's in the low side, an 80 of 100, but I feel confident nonetheless that this is an album that you can give to somebody that's may have not heard it, it's into shoegaze, into post punk, and maybe like The Cure or Susan the Band. She's never really heard Cocteau Twins. You give them this album, you're like, here's a classic of them, of their music. Is it a legendary album? You can you see my opportunity there as far as it being a legendary album. Again, if you took your favorite of theirs, music all time, you put it into one, that would probably be a legendary album. Um, but I don't rate very the best ofs or even sometimes compilations. I'm generally going to review their albums, and it's really hard to have a legendary album. Like for me, anyways. I don't give out eights and nines easily. There's a lot of sevens, a lot of very good music, especially if you already like the band. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's very good, and sure enough, 9 of the 10 songs are very good, but only 3 of them are classic or above. Only one of them are legendary. So that's my thoughts on Heaven or Las Vegas. Such a fantastic album. It is a classic. I'm glad I felt like confident that I could get it up to an 80. I kind of forgot about the second half of the album, and so I wanted to especially revisit that and see if it held up enough to feel like I could warrant giving it a classic. And sure enough, it was right on the edge. And considering the highs on here, love the artwork, love the production. And I also feel like this is them sort of perfecting their sound where they've kind of gotten from post-punk. I love Four Calendar Cafe. It was my first Cocteau Twins album I ever heard. And I feel like that one's even more so. But this one's got a little bit of the older Cocteau Twins and it being more polished like Four Calendar Cafe. And so I feel like this is kind of their ideal perfect sound in some respect. I'll be curious what I also rate their Four Calendar Cafe and then some of their earlier albums. But we'll have to do that for another day. All right, well, thanks for watching my review on Heaven or Las Vegas by Cocteau Twins. I gave it an 80 out of 100. My top 3 tracks, Heaven or Las Vegas, 50/50 Clown, and also Cherry Colored Funk. What are your top 3 favorite songs from this album? And what would you score this album out of 100 using my scoring system? All right, thanks so much.
Cafe.